Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday. It's been the longest weekend I've experienced in quite some time. It is the live game review to our 1-0 defeat on New Year's Day to West Ham United. Another New Year's Day goes by and another defeat for Everton. I think it's something like the last 4 or 5 years on the bounce now we haven't managed to pick up anything on New Year's Day. We're so good on Boxing Day, but literally less than a week later we're just absolutely awful every year. And this was another really poor game of football, not just result wise for Everton but also in terms of as a game. It was utterly atrocious really for 85 minutes. I think we had one shot on target, which was Bernard at the end of a first half, which was, you know, a half chance, let's be perfectly honest with you. I don't think they had many. They had a couple of chances which they flew across the box, in which I think Bowen puts one across the box, and I can't remember who it is, but he doesn't quite get on the end of it. But nothing much happened for pretty much the entirety of the game until the 85th minute when they went and scored a winner, which is obviously typical Everton, certainly typical Everton on New Year's Day. We're joined by Tom T Logic for the first time in a few weeks. Absolutely brilliant to have Tom back, made up that he's back on the channel. Listen, it wasn't a great game, was it, Tom, in terms of just a game of football as a whole? And, you know, obviously conceding in the last 5 minutes to lose it just makes it that extra bit worse. But I suppose it sort of felt quite similar to the Sheffield United game for me, only we scored the winning in that game. We didn't have nothing going forward, really. Defensively, it wasn't poor. Neither team really had many opportunities. There wasn't much to trouble either defences, but going forward, we really struggled. There was no creativity. We just had nothing, and it was just an awful game of football, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to be back, but like, it's a bad thing to come back to, innit, really?
It's Everton,
but
innit?
it's Everton. That's what it is, mate. Before we come on here, I tell you all the time, don't even on text messages and that, it's the hope that kills us all the time. It's just, whenever Everton are getting into a position where you think, oh, can they do this? They always fall short, don't they? Yeah. But it was a worrying performance really, because you couldn't really put it down to tiredness or because they had that week. And I personally thought the City game getting called off was a bit of a godsend for Everton, just to thingy back. But ultimately, we just got outdone by Everton, really, weren't it? Yeah. Typical David Moyes thing, weren't it? Sat back, very well structured in defence, and just hit us on the break. And listen, luck has never been on Everton's side, so it just flicks off Yerry Mina's foot. Which, I mean, you could look at it and say, why is he sort of just flicked out at it in a sense? But what can you do? It just lands to him perfectly. He puts it in. And it was a nothing game, really. I thought Coleman summed it up pretty well. We were never really done much to win it, and they never really done much to win it. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you've just got to move on now, don't we?
That's it, spot on. And you were right there in saying it was a pretty much a nothing game of football. They didn't really have any clear-cut opportunities. We didn't have any clear-cut opportunities. And in the last 5 minutes, a deflected ball, and it's a good finish by Souček, don't get me wrong, but it pretty much hits him as well. It comes to him, and he has, you know, he does well to sort his feet out quickly, but it sort of like happens before you've even had time to process it. And I watched it first, obviously live, and I thought, that's offside. He's got to be miles offside there, because in real time, he just looked like he was miles ahead of the play, but he wasn't. He ended up being onside. And you're right there about the City game. You know, obviously we all come into this thinking, you know, we should be the fitter team here. West Ham had only had a couple of days break. They'd played the thing against Southampton a couple of days before. We obviously had the game against Manchester City postponed earlier on in the week. So, and if you'd have watched on BT Sport, the commentators, I think Steve McManaman it was constantly drilling that down for the first 25-30 minutes, is that, why aren't Everton a lot better here? They should be the better team. West Ham have had no rest. West Ham this, West Ham that. And, you know, I don't like Steve McManaman, to be perfectly honest with you, but you've got to sort of think, you know what, he's half right there. We should be on form here. We should be fully fit. We shouldn't have no excuses going into the game. So, talking about starting off then, like I said, it was pretty much 90 minutes and nothing, and a deflected goal. Carlo Ancelotti chose the team, of course, going into the game. He decided to take Michael Keane out. Michael Keane did come off against Sheffield United. There was some murmurs that he might have had a little bit of a knock. For me, the assumption was he was coming off so that he retained his fitness, because at that point, we thought we were playing City 48 hours later. Didn't start on Friday. Obviously, Carlo went with Seamus Coleman at right back, Mason Holgate and Michael Keane at centre. Yerry Mina at centre half with Ben Godfrey at right back. He also made another couple of changes within the team. Bernard come in, of course, because Alex Iwobi had picked up a knock. But defensively, Tom, there was a lot made about this on social media, certainly after the game, in terms of changing a winning team and changing a winning back line, and especially a back line that's been so solid. And we haven't spoke, certainly on video, since Ben Godfrey's come in and adopted the left back position when Luca Dean's been out and Mason Holgate's been preferred, certainly to Seamus Coleman in the last couple of weeks when Seamus has returned to fitness. Obviously, you'd have to take into consideration rotation and players' injuries, and the midfield situation sort of can't really put down to Carlo, because you look at it and you think, well, Alan's out injured, so Tom Davis has got to go in there, or it's got to be Gomez, and Sigurdsson's got to be in there because James is injured. So, but defensively, he had the opportunity to play Michael Keane there. He was on the bench, which, the typical saying in football goes, if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're fit enough to start. Do you sort of put a little bit down to Carlo for changing that back line there? Would you have kept the same back line, or do you think it's sort of just one of them where, Michael Keane's played, every minute of football since the first lockdown, since the coming back against Liverpool in July or whenever it was, and maybe he deserved that rest, and Carlo sort of put faith in Seamus Coleman to come back in and Mason Holgate and Yerry Mina to do a job at centre half?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to make changes, haven't you, around Christmas? It's inevitable, and unfortunately for Everton's thing, we went on a 4-game unbeaten run. Even when we got beat by Man United and come back and we beat Sheffield United. Yeah. Thought that was a very good statement win, that really, because back against the wall and they pulled it out. Sigurdsson scored, but he looked tired though, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that he did, but if players are injured, then we've just gone a game too far, unfortunately. Yeah. And you've got to have faith though in the players that are coming in. I know it's understandable to, in hindsight, looking at it, thinking you never want to start shifting around the back line who's winning games and ultimately keeping clean sheets. So I couldn't really blame him. Unfortunately, we've had this sort of thing where players have started coming back from injuries and just aren't up to speed. Yeah. You've seen it with Coleman, you've seen it with Allen, you've seen it with even James Rodriguez. They're just not coming back ready to fire. Even at the start with Holgate, he was struggling at the start of the season. So it's inevitable. And listen, it weren't just so the back line. Really. The back line played well. They had no real sort of threats, in my opinion. I mean, I thought Mina and Holgate pretty much showed Haller up. I thought they didn't look down. I mean, when Antonio come on, he was sort of stretching a little bit, but nothing really sort of worried about any sort of situation that he created. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was the defensive line. I'd say it was more going in the midfield and that, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree, spot on, I agree. I just think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it's sort of one of them things, and as soon as I see in the team sheet, I thought if we lose today, that's going to be the first question. Why would you change a team? Certainly a defensive line that's playing well. But no, I understand it, and look, players need to be swapped around. The last thing we need is the Alan situation happening to Michael Keane or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I know people will say, they're professionals and they train and this, that, the other, but ultimately if you're playing football constantly 2-3 times a week, in the Premier League, you're probably going to sustain an injury, certainly during this period of time.
It's just, it's like where people say, it's just a game of football. Like, you're playing at an elite level. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not playing on a Sunday league. You know what I mean? And even that's a struggle for most of us.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, side playing, maybe, it even come out, if you've ever seen it. Someone put out on Twitter saying, like, showed how many days breaks Everton were ultimately going to have in December. And it was the maximum they had, I think, was 2. They were the highest, weren't they? And obviously Liverpool were the lowest. So
got about 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think they went to Dubai and everything, had a tan and everything, salad and all, didn't they? So, but I mean, it's just unfortunate. But you're trying to look at ways for that game specifically, and there was just you're trying to look for sort of excuses in a sense, but there was nothing to hold on to. No. It was just poor.
No.
You've just got to write it off and go to the next game now.
Yeah, spot on, absolutely. And West Ham sort of showed from the start, didn't they? Look, we know how a David Moyes team sets up. We've watched David Moyes for a decade as Everton manager, and he sets up with a team with a good line, very solid, and he keep the shape very well, and that's what David Moyes did. And I liken this game, Tom, to the game against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, only we were Chelsea in this scenario. They come, lined up very well, strong defensive line. We didn't really have much creativity, so they weren't even put under much pressure anyway, but they kept it strong if they were to be put under pressure, kept a good shape. Whenever they lost the ball, he fell back into that shape, even though we had bits and bobs of the possession, certainly the majority of the possession for times in the game. They just kept a nice shape, stayed solid, and we couldn't break them down. And ultimately, like I said, they hit us on the break last 5 minutes and scored the winner, and it was pretty much game over by then. But you're spot on. We can talk about the squad depth and the rotation and this, that and the other, and the players that are coming off the bench. And listen, we've had this argument constantly for months and months and months. Myself, Tom, every Evertonian, we all know that this squad isn't good enough. It's not strong enough to challenge in a Champions League, even challenge in a European competition. I'm not saying that this team isn't good enough to finish in a European competition, i.e. Europa League, but I wouldn't be confident next season playing in the Europa League and the Premier League, being confident that we can do well in both competitions with this current squad. Yes, on its day, this 11 for me is one of the best 11s in the league, certainly when it's playing well. We've seen that, but if we were going to play Saturday, Wednesday every week, or Sunday, Thursday every week, whatever it may be, we'd struggle because we haven't got the squad depth. You look at the bench on Friday, we're bringing Dominic Calvert-Lewin off, and we're bringing Cenk Tosun on, who hasn't played, other than recently, I didn't even have a sniff, was leaving the football club, and is playing 5 or 10 minutes at the end of every game. You're bringing on players like Bernard, who was fantastic against Sheffield United. 3 days later, he gets a start against West Ham, and he doesn't do anything. He may as well not be there. But Tom's absolutely right. The team that we had on the pitch to start with, for me, it should have been good enough to do more, but we just had nothing, did we? There was no creativity, and we just spoke off camera there about the importance of Luca Dean, and I have spoke numerous times over the last couple of weeks about how well Ben Godfrey has done and how impressed I've been with Ben Godfrey, and I just think he's absolutely boss. I think he's a brilliant footballer, but the reality of the situation is in this game, especially given Richarlison isn't on his greatest run of form, and I want to talk about Richarlison in a little bit because he has been a bit of a talking point recently, especially with Richarlison not being on his greatest run of form. We all know Dominic Calvert-Lewin, absolutely brilliant striker, fantastic finisher. He's not going to create goals. This was the issue I had with Dom, is when you're seeing him dropping into the centre of the midfield position and picking the ball up, I can't really have a go at him for it because I understand his frustration and he just wants to make something happen, but he's not a striker that's going to turn around, beat 4 men and slot it. He's just going to get it and give it, and that basically means he's just an additional midfielder, and his position up front is then, there's nobody there. But like I said, we haven't got Richarlison firing on all cylinders. James is only just coming back and probably was put back on sort of prematurely. I think if we were winning that game and we were comfortable, I don't think we'd have seen James, to be honest with you. We've still got Luca Dean out, who was massive, creative wise to this Everton team. So do you think that's just it then, Tom? Do you think, looking at that performance on Friday, do you think we sort of just chalk it off and think, well, we haven't got our best players back, certainly not Alan in the centre of the midfield, and sort of how important is somebody like a Luca Dean creatively to this team? Because at the moment, we seem very solid defensively, but we don't seem to have anything creative-wise, and I think that's shown with Dom recently and not being able to get a goal.
Well, I think you've got to ultimately put it down to Ancelotti still trying to find out the best system for the team. I mean, this team can't seem to break teams down, so he switched it. He said, right, we're going to do a low block, get in position, stay tight in structure, and just break on teams, and we've done it very well. We're only winning by 1-0, every fine margins, but that game in particular, I mean, our best two centre-half pairing is ultimately Mina and Keane. Keane's very, very, very comfortable when Mina is in that side because he takes the organising responsibilities, he organises it, you can see that. Keane's a lot happier to just defend.
Yeah.
He can't like sort of take responsibility, you see it, he sort of gets nervous in his play.
Yeah.
But that was the first time this year, I'm pretty sure, that Holgate and Mina played with each other.
Yeah.
So you've got two players there that haven't played all season with each other. Then you've got Coleman coming in at right back, and then you've got Godfrey, who's ultimately not a left back, but has done a very, very good job at that point. But the type of teams that when we're going up against these, it's going to be a lot more than when we're playing against Chelsea's and these Man Uniteds and things like that. So you need your creative players to break them down. That's just the ultimate thing. I mean, I think, listen, you can't ultimately put it all on this, but you can see in Richarlison's play that he's got what he when he gets the ball, he's waiting for that overlap from and it does not come. Yeah. So the space does not open for him. Yeah. So every time he tries to cut in, it gets took off him, or he runs into like a cul-de-sac of players. And you can see he's a sort, I wouldn't say baby at times, but he's very sort of gets emotional. A bit of a cob on. Yeah, he's very emotional when things are going wrong for him. But what fans have got to realise is he got put into friggin' Land's odds the other week by him against Man United. He got put unconscious. He had to go on. So that's a week later after that. Before that, he was struggling with a wrist injury. Before that, he got hit on the ankle and that, so he was out for a little bit. So he's still coming to terms with it. And listen, he's our best player. Like I'm pretty sure that was the first time we've won without him.
Yeah, the game against Sheffield United. Yeah.
Yeah, against Sheffield United. That's crazy. I mean, fans are very fickle, but you've got to remember. Like that stat alone is just nuts to even do that. That shows you what type of depth we've got in our squad. So I wouldn't necessarily start getting on his back, but listen, there's gonna be now. You mean you're gonna be the talisman and you want to go to that next level where you want to go to the Madrids and Barcelonas. You've got to just put your head down and just start going for it, don't you? You gotta find form.
Yeah. Spot on, and they played us like a fiddle, really, didn't they? They knew sort of, I think, within the first 10 or 15 minutes that creative wise we were going to struggle. We didn't have anybody to run at them, and I think that was something that, you know, a lot of people picked out, and Alex Iwobi was a name that was mentioned a lot, and Alex Iwobi's had his fair share of criticism since he's been an Everton player, and you know what, rightly so, and he's even had his fair share of criticism recently in terms of, I've seen people saying, yeah, he runs and he does a lot, but doesn't, you know, his final ball's poor and this, that, the other, and I agree. I think he needs to improve his final ball. I think crossing sometimes is atrocious, other times it's okay, and you know, he doesn't really, certainly doesn't get involved with enough goals as he should be doing. But one thing that Alex Iwobi's shown in the last couple of weeks, Tom, is that he runs at players, doesn't he? He runs and he puts players under pressure, and sometimes you just need that. You don't necessarily need a world-class cross on the end of it. You just need a player that's going to make the opposition think, shit, I've got a challenge on the go here. I've got to constantly be aware. I've got to constantly know where this lad is, because if you're coming up against the defence and this defence is looking at our front line going, right, okay, Calvert-Lewin's a danger, but if you just stick two men on him and he's not really got the creativity, he's going to come for the ball, so he'll move out of his position naturally anyway. Sigurdsson ain't doing anything, Bernard isn't doing anything. It was very easy for them to defend against, and I agree with, I think we missed Iwobi's directness. I think we missed somebody running at players, and ultimately that's something that I think we're going to have to look at in the transfer window as well, Tom. Not necessarily this transfer window because it's January, but certainly in the future. I don't know what it is, we just don't have enough players that want to take responsibility, do we? And I'm not saying Iwobi always takes responsibility, but certainly recently, with his confidence up, he's picked the ball up, he's ran at players, he's used his body, he's used his energy, he's got in the right positions, and like I said, his final ball might be poor at the end of it, but just those little moments can automatically pick the rest of the team up, certainly confidence-wise, and make the rest of the team go, actually, we can get at these, we can break these down, we can put these under pressure, and we just didn't have anyone to do that on Friday, did we?
Yeah, no, I mean, the points on Iwobi, I mean, if you cast your mind back to like last season, all he was playing this right wing role, and it just did not suit him. So fair play to Iwobi to sort of making that role his, and ultimately he's probably become one of our top players really going forward. You've got the likes of Iwobi, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. But the thing I'd like to see from Ancelotti is if he'd switch Iwobi onto the left and give Richarlison the right hand side, because if you're not going to have Luca Dean in the team, as I say, you're not going to get the best out of Richarlison. So the only really sort of next best player who does that at fullback is Coleman. Yeah. So put him with Coleman, and Richarlison's quite direct and powerful and at pace. He's sort of, he's sort of not like a typical natural winger, but he's got them attributes to do that. Iwobi's that type of player that you can allow him to drift inside and find space in between the lines. He's naturally good at that. Yeah. That's what ultimately I thought we were buying him for. Yeah. But that's one thing that hopefully could sort of tweak out a little bit more out of Richarlison. But it all of it comes down to his midfield.
Yeah.
The midfield is so disjointed. Decore's carrying everything.
Yeah.
And what it boils down to is the fact that our squad players come in, and at that moment in time, every one of them had a bad game.
Yeah.
So when that happens, we've got no chance.
Yeah.
Maybe if Sigurdsson has a bad game, well, every game normally, isn't it? But ultimately, if he's having a bad game, at least you can change it a little bit. But when Davies, Sigurdsson, Bernard, 3 players in key positions that are playing really bad and not doing anything for the team, you're on a downward spiral.
Yeah, you're fighting a losing battle, aren't you? And you know what? You said it before. Maybe we're just sort of, it was just one game too much. 4 straight wins, obviously the City game, and look, you know, the City game may have been different because you are in that sort of momentum swing. We've come off the back of the Sheffield United result, we'd won it, and you know what? I think we all sat there and we all sort of went, with the City game, that's a positive because we get more rest, there's more time to recuperate. You know, obviously we're playing a weaker opposition in West Ham than Man City, but maybe we just lost that bit of momentum that we'd have had going into the City game that we took from the Sheffield United. It's difficult to say because we could have got absolutely turned down by Manchester City and completely embarrassed. But again,
I just think they played like a team that had time off.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Yeah. It just looked like they come back from their holiday where
in second gear.
It just looked very slow. It ultimately didn't look like the team thought, like, hold on a minute, we could go second here.
Yeah.
Like, they never played like that at all. It was just it looked hard work, and we've seen that before, haven't we, with Everton?
Yeah. And
when these players can't playing awful, the likes of Sigurdsson and Bernard, like I keep saying, once if you're trying to get going, you're just not going to do it, are you? And listen, from 5-10 minutes in, you're watching and you just know where it's going. I even said to me dad when we were watching it in the second half, I thought, this just screams the Leeds game, where we come out the second half, we were dominant, we were creating so much chances, but you could just see it coming, couldn't you? You could just see it just falling, and it did, and it is what it is. But listen, you've got to put it into context, haven't you? I mean, the thing is with Everton at the moment in this season is they lose a game and then they go win 4, and then they lose a game and then go win 5. You know what I mean? It's a hard one to grasp in your head, because when you've gone a full month of winning, you get your hopes up naturally. But if you won a game, lost a game, and done it like that, you're sort of looking at it thinking, you're sort of looking at it thinking, oh, we are doing well, but, you know, we're still in the... Listen, for Ancelotti to get this team in and around Champions League is insane. I mean, the 4 points off
top of the league.
That's crazy to me.
Spot on.
That just shows you what job he's doing. I mean, all the pundits that come out and say, like Danny Murphy, I've got a bone to pick with Danny Murphy, mate. But he comes out with absolute strife and dribble and nonsense, where he says, for example, Ancelotti doesn't suit Everton. What type of comments that? What do you mean? What that's absolute idiotic to say.
Well,
what do you mean? What does that mean, Danny? Like what? Like they don't suit. Well, what do you mean? Like the style of play doesn't suit? Because ultimately he's getting the best of what he's got. So to me, it does suit. He got the thing with me and managers and clubs and fans is ultimately, like, as soon as they come in, there was a massive response to him. He's got his own song. We fell in love with him, and ultimately, look what he's doing for the club. We know where it's going. So just take your own opinion on it. Don't be thinking and listening to anyone else and other things like that is my suggestion.
No, spot on. I agree. And there's a few pundits that I've got a bit of a bone to pick. I don't know if you've seen that video today, Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin's the biggest diver in the league.
Oh, I didn't. I do listen to it. But I didn't hear that.
It was a clip that they put up saying, I don't know, some award they'd made up on this show about biggest simulator in the league, and Calvert-Lewin won it.
The diving thing,
And it was like, what are you talking about?
Did he win?
What, sorry?
thought Traore's was worse, but...
Well, I think I didn't watch the video. I seen the title, so I didn't watch the video because I thought I'm not wasting my time on this. But from people that seem to have watched the video, the suggestion was Dominic Calvert-Lewin dives to win penalties. Now, I can only remember Dominic Calvert-Lewin winning 2 penalties in his Everton career. One was against Liverpool, where he was pushed over by Dejan Lovren, and one was about 3 weeks ago when Mendy went clattering into him and put him on his arse.
I mean, you can never say Calvert-Lewin's a diver. That's just stupidity. I mean, if you want to say that every forward goes to win a penalty, yeah, of course they will.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
That's the job.
Clearly, like if someone throws the foot out and he clips it, it's a penalty. Like, I'd expect him to go. I'd be more annoyed if he didn't go down.
Yeah,
that's his job. That's football ultimately. But to turn around and say like he's a bad diver, listen. It just creates. That's what they want.
It is. I said this. I think the sad thing with journalism. I think the sad thing with journalism now is that these journalists or pundits, or not journalists, these pundits are sort of coming out with things that I don't even think they believe, but they know it's going to get clicks and they know it's going to get attention, and therefore if it gets more attention, the more people tune in, the more people listen, the more people watch, the wider it goes. And I said it's the sad thing with modern day punditry is, you know, that situation and some of the things you hear on TalkSport, these people are more interested in saying something that's going to get them attention rather than saying something that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's all about views now, isn't it? It doesn't matter about good opinions or nothing like that. I mean, you had the whole massive uproar about Leeds calling out Karen Carney about her comments and saying it's sex. Listen, in my opinion, you call whoever out, but maybe you look at it in a sense that if an actual club official account starts calling, but ultimately they did do it against Gabby Agbonlahor, so you can't really say it's sexist that they've done that because they've done it both ways.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That comment sort of just goes under there. But when you make pundits accountable for why can't they be?
Yeah.
Like Danny Murphy every week, once Everton get beat, he's like, oh, right, that's it. He starts wiping his little ball dead and thinks, thank God, they're away. And then we come back and win again. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just, it's sort, in my opinion, Everton are like an easy target.
Yeah, it is.
We're like little pushovers because the club doesn't respond. We're not like little arlasses where like you sort of say things in media and all that, like our manager isn't, which he did, to be fair, about the Van Dijk situation, didn't he, the week later, where he said ultimately James Rodriguez is out because of Van Dijk's challenge. So you've got a little bit with him, but the actual club doesn't like stick up for itself.
No.
So I think really fair play to Leeds in a sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. You have to be able to.
In the end, someone's got to call them out.
Yeah, you do. I agree, spot on. You have to hold these people accountable. You know, if you're going to go out there and you're going to put a public opinion out there, I don't think it's about sexism or women. I understand a club official Twitter saying it and then abuse getting hurdled, and that abuse may be sexist abuse from fans and stuff like that, and that's not acceptable. That isn't acceptable whatsoever. It's not acceptable in any walk of life. But
I totally agree, but you can't hold the club accountable for other people's actions. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like if you're putting and especially they did do it in a tongue in cheek. They didn't really sort of target her and say, listen, if you clip something into a 20-second day, obviously it's going to look stupid what she says. If you listen to the whole thing, what she said, she had a little point, but not necessarily. I thought her point was wrong, where it was basically COVID. If COVID didn't happen, then Leeds wouldn't have got promoted. Well, that was nonsense because they had a 5-game winning streak before COVID come into play. So and you're looking at March.
Yeah.
So league sort of nearly done, isn't it, in a sense? So listen, it's just the way it is, and I'm sure I've just quickly looked on Twitter then, and Sam Carroll I think's having an argument with Chris Sutton about it. I mean, this is what they want, don't they?
That's it. You want
it's
the
just the way. But what I do like, fair play to people who do from media side that do call them out for it now. You've got the Sam Carroll. You have. I don't think Paddy Boylan did. I think another lad did. I'm not too sure who he was. I don't know whether he was at the Echo. But like yourself, you've got to. You got to stand up for your club, haven't you?
Yeah. That's it. It's a nonsense. And like I said, there's opinions that you don't agree with, and then there's just complete and utter nonsense. And that is like literally, I can't remember one scenario in which, even like you said, you'd expect your striker to go down in those situations, or you're angry if he doesn't. I don't think Dom does. Certainly not enough. There's been a number of times in recent weeks where Dom's been kicked at the heels and he's tried to stay up and he's tried to play it off, and you're just thinking, just go over, force yourself a penalty, and he doesn't do it. So it baffled me even more.
There's agendas.
Yeah.
There's agendas. Like, I could call Jamie Vardy a diver the way he goes down, but he's looking for it. Like, but why shouldn't he? That's just intelligent play to me. It's just, listen, Everton ultimately threaten what the Premier League's created so far.
Yeah.
They're the only club who's threatening it.
Yeah.
I mean, Leicester at a point, but Leicester seem to not do it on a consistent basis. So if ultimately Everton get it right and they do get in that top four, then that's it. They're in.
Yeah.
Everton will stay there. That's the difference. We sort of, with our big players, we were still keeping hold of our big players without European football.
Yeah.
We kept John Stones when Chelsea come in with a bid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We keep these players when our prices are met now.
Yeah.
So you look at Richarlison, he stayed.
Yeah.
Listen, if Richarlison went for 120 million, then fair play. That I fully expect Everton to go invest that into better play. That's just the way it is. Every club's a selling club. But listen, when we get there, it's going to be a nightmare for them, isn't it? Yeah. And I hope they do. Yeah,
they're going to hate it, and it's going to be absolutely boss. We'll get into some of the comments then. That's it. It's going to be boss, mate. And I suppose you take it as a positive, because it's like, well, they're having a go because clearly they're wound up and they're...
You're in sight now.
Yeah.
Listen beforehand, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Spot
you
on.
can tell the way pundits talk about it. The only things I give credit to is Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher does a fair review. I mean, sometimes he's a little bit annoying when Liverpool comes on and things like that, but listen, nowhere near what Steve McManaman is.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like watching a fan TV channel when the derby was on.
Yeah, it was. It was
ridiculous.
Awful. Absolutely awful. Let's get into some of the comments then we will go on to talking about the game a little bit more. I know we don't want to, but I want to talk about some of the substitutes. I want to talk about James returning. I want to talk a bit about Richarlison as well. Eugene says Everton make bid for Torino defender Gleison. I seen that in the Echo today. It was according to reports in Italy, I think. So I would take it with a pinch of salt. And they also talking about the Khedira rumours. Eugene says we need to sign a player like Max Aarons. Well, me and Tom are going to talk about some potential signings in this window, and then in the summer as well, and where we need to improve towards the end of the video. Lenny says, all right, lads, all right, mate. Need that experience. Says that the West Ham goal was stupid. It was deflected. It was, but ultimately, I don't know. I don't think we deserve to lose the game, but we certainly didn't deserve to win the game. We didn't do anywhere near enough. Jason says, just heard on Sky Sports News, Big Sam wants Cenk Tosun. He must have really decided he can't keep West Bromwich Albion up. Come in with a bid, mate, and you can have him. Uden says, what players do you think Everton need to strengthen this team, because the January transfer window is open now? We're going to talk about it in a sec. Philip says, hi Tom, hope you're okay. Near Death Experience says we're going to beat Rotherham in the FA Cup. I hope so. Everton Bot says, hey guys, hope you're all well. He also says, hope Everton player was angry at the performance as me after that performance. Well, you'd like to hope so, mate. Lavid says, I can understand fans' frustration, but injury is not the only problem teams have to face. Lack of form is another problem. Top 6 regulars have squads to deal with this. He needs another 5 in the next window. Good luck to him. Wimmy says, how's everyone doing? Wimmy says Keane wasn't fit to play. Fair enough. Lavovic says present squad equals top 10, present squad plus signings, top 6 and a trophy. And Robert says the defence is fine, bar a right back. We need wingers and a playmaker and a backup striker. West Ham game was so slack, missed passes and no speed or penetration, not what we expect. And Adam, she says, think the way COVID is going, they may call it off after 19 games, and yet his game is one such finishes can't be coming too deep. I don't think they'll call it off, to be honest. I just think they'll carry it on like they did when it returned. Yeah,
last year they didn't, so why would they do it this year? No. It doesn't make sense, does it, really?
I mean, ultimately they'll be able to continue, won't they?
Listen, they've got a lot of money to put them all in bubbles. I mean, they need to, the way the Tottenham lot are going.
Yeah, and City as well. And Lanzini for West Ham bloody played against us, and then it come out the day after that he had a party.
That's what I'm saying. Like, my personal thing, I mean, I know you can't like sort of put them in a prison in a sense, but these clubs need to start
They
following
need repercussions, I think, certainly for
Well,
parties.
no, ultimately, yeah, 100%. But ultimately, these clubs need to put checks in place where they're like, where are you, and things like have their own tracking state codes and things. I mean, they've got to.
Yeah.
You're ultimately putting other players at risk. I mean, you're putting lives at risk essentially. I mean, I know they're elite players and they could probably brush it off, but listen, it only takes one to get it seriously, and it's game, set, match, mate.
Exactly. And I've spoke recently about like the effect on personal lives with footballers. It's just something I keep thinking of because I keep bringing it up, and I know Sigurdsson had a stinker against West Ham before anybody starts, but the 3 games prior, scored the winner against Chelsea, played well in that game, done okay in the games against Leicester, Arsenal, scored the winner against Sheffield United. And I said about how the night before the Chelsea game he announced that he was pregnant and him and his missus were expecting a baby, and his Instagram post just put a heart, and his wife's Instagram post said about how they struggled for months and months to get pregnant, and now it's such a relief. And I sat here, I think, on video and said I wouldn't be surprised if he plays like a different player tomorrow and it's like a weight off his shoulder. Lo and behold, he did. And you know, you say about the elite players, and they probably would brush it off, but it only takes one of those players who's in a bubble with maybe one of their parents or something to pass it on there, and then that parent can't shake it off, and then that player obviously has to deal with that, and affects performances, and obviously it affects the parent, which is even more important. So I agree. I think there needs to be much stricter measures, because all you're seeing now is Benjamin Mendy threw a party on New Year's Eve, Kyle Walker threw a party, 3 Tottenham players and Lanzini were in a party, and it's like, okay, we're getting all this information, but what's actually happening to these players?
I wouldn't mind going to a Kyle Walker party though.
It'd be certainly interesting, wouldn't it?
I mean, the stories that come out of that, mate, Jesus.
It'd be an interesting one to be a fly on the wall.
Honest to God, Jesus Christ, that lads, you don't know who people are sometimes, do you? You know what I mean?
That's it.
But listen, on a serious note, with like these players, like you're talking about London-based clubs here, they're in like tier 4, tier 5 lockdowns.
Yeah.
How are these people even getting to get like in such big numbers? It just doesn't make sense to me. And listen, you don't want to throw the elite thing out, but when these people sort of get money, they think that they can do what they want. Yeah. Ultimately, doesn't it? It's just the way life seems to go in some people. But they need to be a lot more stricter.
That's it. But like you said there, they think that they can do what they want. But in a way, they can do what they want, can't they? Because I've not seen City come out and say, I've seen the odd statements from clubs saying we're disappointed with this player's actions, but I haven't seen them say they're getting fined however much money or...
If the Premier League come out and say, if more than 2 people or more than 2 players are found out of COVID restrictions, we start talking points. You'd never see it.
Yeah.
You'd see clubs just end there.
Yeah.
They should not be doing it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the people that suffer the most and the most frustrating take part is us, the normal people who are sticking by the rules.
Yeah.
Who are trying to get out of this time. People are losing their jobs and everything.
Yeah, spot on.
You know what I mean? So it's just nonsense.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Well, let's get back into the awful crap show that was New Year's Day then. Like I said, first half we just spoke about, nothing really happened. Bernard has a shot in the last 5 minutes. Keeper makes a save, that was it. We then go into the second half, much of the same. We're comfortable on the ball, everything's dead slow. I thought the pace of the game, certainly from Everton, just suited West Ham to a T. It was just dead slow. We weren't really moving the ball quickly, we weren't really doing much with it, and it was very easy to sort of to defend against ultimately. I don't think we were awful on the ball passing wise. We did misplace a few passes, but I don't think we were awful passing wise. It was just so predictable and so readable, and we were never going to break them down doing that. Certainly a side that's so well organised. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. If you could subscribe to the channel, it would mean a massive amount to me. Really do appreciate it. Please share the video on social media. You can find Tom's links as well in the description. Go and check Tom out, drop my follow on Twitter and all that good stuff. But Carlo then made a couple of changes, decided to change the game, I suppose. But again, we're in this situation as we have been in the last few weeks where you're looking at our bench and if we're not playing well, you're sort of just thinking that's not going to change anything. Obviously, Bernard had come on against Sheffield United, done so well, and this is the sort of frustrating thing, and I want to talk about are we sort of where we are at the moment, and it's just one of those things, and we have to improve, and we're doing well for where we are, which I think me and Tom both agree with. But Bernard come on against Sheffield United was fantastic, changed the game for me. You know, the other players players that come on done well as well. Started this game on Friday, didn't do anything. So Carlo looks to the bench, brings on Andre Gomez, James Rodriguez, and ultimately Cenk Tosun. I want to talk about the Cenk Tosun sort of substitution. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming off pretty much and near enough the same time that James Rodriguez come on the pitch, which seemed a bit baffling considering James' creativity would feed into Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Is it sort of just the case with Dom that it's like he's playing so many games that he's going to need to come off on the 70th, 80th minute mark, and it's sort of like we only have really Cenk Tosun to come on, so we've just got to put up with it? Were you frustrated a bit when you seen Dom going off, certainly given James coming on?
Yeah, I mean, even if it were James coming on, it was just a shot. I just, that substitution, I've seen it a few times now, and the biggest thing for me was when he come on against Man United, and we had everyone in the box, and he passed it to one of their players, and he went and scored. You know what I mean? It was just the most typical thing you could ever see in your life, couldn't you? Really? I mean, what does he? I don't want to bash players and all that, but like, what does he bring to Everton? Like, exactly. what ultimately? He's not a Premier League player to me. No. Like, he just does not suit the league. He's slow. He gets outpaced. He can't battle. He can't hold the ball up. Because in that 5 minutes he come in against Manchester United, I keep going back to that, is that Tom come off and he come on, and it weren't against Man United, sorry. I think it might have been another game. It might have been the was it the Arsenal game? Yeah, it was the Arsenal game. Yeah, it was the Arsenal game. And we come on, and in that short period of time, he had a chance to hold the ball up. He didn't. Then he created and put even more pressure on. And then he had another chance to hold, and he didn't. And ultimately, in them 5 minutes, Pickford made a save. It come from that. It come from him not battling and holding the ball up. So there's a situation where he's more detrimental to the side when he comes on than not. Yeah. Like, there's just no... He's not quick. He's not very good in the box where people think he is. He's far from it. I mean, he gets what? How many goals does he score? I mean, everyone talks about he scores for Turkey. That's all well and good, but if you're not doing it week in, week out, then it's not enough for me. Yeah. But there's a serious issue where it's gonna start rearing its head constantly, and if Calvert-Lewin, while Richarlison isn't firing, if Calvert-Lewin goes off injured, or if he's out for a certain period of time, Everton will have no chance whatsoever in European football with him up front. Yeah, just that's just plain point blank. So if Sam Allardyce comes in and offers 10 million for him, which I think what's getting reported, then I would snap your hands off. Yeah. Then you bank that, and then you've got Moise Kean, haven't you, in PSG? And listen, you know, with him going there, the club arm don't really want him. Yeah. You can just tell that. I mean, you wouldn't send him on loan, would you? No. If you didn't think it.
Certainly not given the lack of options we've got.
Well, yeah, but ultimately, when you do look at it as well, though, the writing was on the wall for me when Ferguson took him off at Man United. Yeah. I mean, fair play to him, he did come back and sort of try and put a shift in it every time but he was coming on for like 5 minutes, and you just knew he's a very good player, but he's not a very good player that would suit the Premier League. Yeah. You can tell that he wants time on the ball, he wants to turn, he wants space. You've seen it with Klassen. I mean, I'm not saying I'm putting him in that bracket, because ultimately what Klassen done after it was he went away to Bremen and done nothing. Yeah. But Everton, it's gonna, if you don't do it in January, then it's sort of like that. If you ever remember that time when we didn't get Zuma, and you're looking at it for centre halves and you're thinking that's worrying. If one of them gets injured, it's and it did, didn't it? Yeah. And we paid for it. So I think Brands does sort of look at something, whether it's a winger, whether it's to put Richarlison up front, something where we can get it in. But with January, it's a minefield, isn't it? It's very hard to get in players who, especially strikers, ultimately when you look at the stats that come in at that time of the season, don't really do well. Yeah.
No, I agree, spot on. It's very, very worrying looking to our bench and seeing Cenk Tosun as the only striking option. And let's be honest, okay, we've got Moise Kean out on loan. Don't think he's going to come back to Everton, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Some people will throw...
He won't.
Exactly.
He'll be getting souls.
Yeah, spot on. I agree. And some people have thrown the Ellis Sims shout out. He's far too young, far too inexperienced. So ultimately, we're relying a lot on Dominic Calvert-Lewin at the moment, and if Dom does pick up an injury, I think I'd just fall to the ground and cry constantly until he comes fit again, because we have no other option. And you can talk about how Richarlison can go up front and you can change them about, but Richarlison isn't firing at the moment either, so it's going to be very, very difficult. And I understand that. To be fair, we'll go into talking about Richarlison in a second, Tom, and then we'll talk about a couple of transfers and players and positions in which we can improve. But in terms of Everton at the moment, you said before about, Carlo Ancelotti turning this Everton side into a team that are within the top four, albeit, points, we could be 10th, we could be 4th, whatever. But in and around that top end of the table, only a win away from a point behind first, 2 wins away from being right up there in a title race. Again, not saying we will be in a title race, but, points-wise. Ultimately, considering the fact that this squad is very, very weak and that our best players, i.e. Luca Deans, is irreplaceable in terms of creativity. I know Ben Godfrey's come on and done a fantastic job, and I love Ben Godfrey, he's been brilliant, but going forward he doesn't offer that creativeness that Luca Dean does. Alan, irreplaceable in the centre of midfield in terms of what he brings. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, massively irreplaceable. It's like having a Bakewell tart without almond in. Just absolute you couldn't do it without Dominic Calvert-Lewin in this team. Richarlison, who is on a bad run of form, but again, if he's out for 5 or 6 weeks or so, we've seen the record before. We've only won 1 game without him in the team since he's been at the club, and that was against Sheffield United. James' creativity is massively missed. So, Carlo really, and truly, and I know this game was a poor game, and some will say, but it's not in isolation because we lost to Leeds and we drew to Burnley and this, that, the other. But realistically, to go on streaks of 4 wins in a row twice already so far this season, to take points off Chelsea, Arsenal, Leicester, not just points, wins off Chelsea, Arsenal, Leicester, Tottenham away, take points off Liverpool, with a squad that's very weak in terms of strength and depth and quality to come off the bench, and not just very weak, but players that are being rumoured to leave the football club in positions that we can't really afford to sell in, let's be honest, unless we bring in. Carlo's doing really well at the moment, isn't he, with this Everton team? And for you, listen, is it just a case of we're going to get performances in games like this because of the lack of quality in the squad and because of injuries and stuff like that, and we just sort of have to put up with them and continue to build and move on?
Yeah, 100%. That's ultimately what this season will be. It'll be, you're looking at it, and then at the end of the season, you probably maybe 7th, hopefully in that 5th, 6th, but could be 7th, 8th, and you're looking at it thinking, if we'd have had a little bit more better squad depth, then maybe we could have pushed a little bit further. So it is going to be frustrating, but for what we all it is ultimately is progression. If we see progression, then that's a good thing. You got to keep remembering where we come from. It was an absolute mess of a squad.
Yeah,
it was Silva, Sam Allardyce, mess. Koeman. Since Brand's come in, started with Koeman, didn't it? Let's not talk about him. But ultimately, it was down to Koeman and Steve Walsh, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you're looking at maybe putting the club back, 5 seasons? This is only the first season Ancelotti and Brands have worked with each other.
Yeah.
So you've got to. It's all context, and listen, if they can do something in January, then fair play. But it'll be more so loans, and it's the case of how can you sort of shuffle that team round where you're getting the best out of it. Like ultimately, the key thing for me is the conceded goals that we were in like the top 4 of most conceded goals.
Yeah.
Most expected goals against. And we've reduced that. We've gone further down the list because of ultimately what Ancelotti's seen and what he's seen on the training pitch to do that. I mean, when you're looking at expected goals, we're like mid-table. That could put sort of in, but that's gone down in the last few because ultimately we haven't got Luca Dean and James Rodriguez. So we've got a very good starting 11, but injuries are gonna. It's hard. Listen, if you got rid of, in an ideal world, you could get rid of 5 or 6 in a month, couldn't you? And you'd be happy and change them. But if Bernard goes, which it looks likely it's going to happen to Roma, you've got Tosun going, Keane's money. Obviously, Sigurdsson staying. Hopefully, Balassi, Bezic goes. I think Pennington's just gone to Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
So we are chipping away at it. But if these players are to be able to get out of January, we can sort of look at loans. I mean, one lad I've seen was in China. He was at Villarreal, called Bakambu. He's a striker. He was brilliant at Villarreal. I mean, he was nearly going to Barcelona the other year when they decided to go against him. He went for Branthwaite.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Braithwaite. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, Everton names him. Yeah.
Dog, I nearly fell off each chair then.
Hey, fair play if he goes to Barcelona. But it's just like players like little play like that. You can see who would suit the team and who would suit the Premier League to just come in and do a job. That's what we need. You can't be going to look for players who are going to improve you straight away in the January. It just does not happen. Yeah. I mean, the time to a dozen nearly. So you've got to be smart and listen. If we come out of it with an extra striker or maybe a loan for a winger, maybe then I'll be happy with that, because ultimately you've got the lads off the wages who you don't want there, and you've got a nice little pot of money going into the summer.
Yeah, spot on. No, spot on. I agree. It's a difficult window to deal in, and I know we need a list of players, right backs probably on there, right winger, another striker, but ultimately you have to put into context the window that we're in, and that is that teams know what Everton need, and if you're going to, let's say, because he's been brought up, I'm not saying we're in for him, I'm not saying it's realistic, but because it's being brought up, let's say if we went to Norwich City and said we want Max Aarons now, they'd go, well, we want 60 million because we know you're desperate for a long-term right back, so we'll have your hand off for him. So it's a difficult window. I mean, look, you only have to look at January transfer window notoriously. Cenk Tosun and Theo Walcott in the same window. I think we spent over 50 million on both of those players. Yeah. And, ultimately, Theo, I like the lad. I think he's got a good attitude, but his return to the football club was never anywhere near the money that we paid for him. And Cenk Tosun was sitting here saying we're desperate to get rid of him. Come on. Done okay for his first 5 or 6 games, but other than that, has done nothing. So it's a difficult window. I do want to talk about the summer in a moment, Tom. Just before we go, I also want to talk about Richarlison. We'll get into the live comments for a second. If you're enjoying, please do hit that like button, by the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Really do appreciate all of the support. Robert says, also need cover for Alan. Without him, we are crap. Well, again, like we said before, very irreplaceable player, and ultimately at the moment, we haven't got anybody that fits in and does that role as good as he does. Adamski says, Mina makes me nervous, to be honest, but him and make it clear for his choices. I think they've both been excellent. Certainly in the last few weeks, I think they've both been excellent together. Wemmy says, there's no pace, that's the problem. All the play is slow, 3-touch passes, backwards, slow pace play. Need players who read the play quicker, move quicker, get forward. We need one touch and move forward. I agree. GTE says if one of our players gets injured, the drop-off in quality is massive. It certainly is. Adam says Richie needs Dean back. When he moved over to the right, he was a lot better. When he says, considering the squad, I think we are doing well. I agree, mate. I absolutely agree. I think we're doing fantastically well considering the squad that we've got. Adam says we're doing more than well. Very impressed with what Carlo's got out of this team. Robert Fernandez says, do you guys think we need players who will change our mentality? We don't have that fight back yet, which is crucial. We need players who have been there and done it. What do you think on that, Tom? Because obviously we've been linked with Sami Khedira quite a lot recently, and we had a little conversation on Twitter about people comparing him to Gareth Barry and the differences there. One thing I have seen about Sami Khedira, even with those people that have said, look, he's 33 years old, I think, had a lot of injuries, this, that, the other. The one thing that keeps popping up is that leadership and that player that has been there and won leagues and dragged teams through and this, that, the other. Do you agree with that point then, in terms of we just need more leaders in this team, more players that have been there, or do you think you can make, because you'll have to look at somebody like a Ben Godfrey who hasn't won a Premier League, who hasn't played in European football, who hasn't been there and done it, and again, I'm not saying he's the best leader ever and he's like Captain America, but what we're seeing from Ben Godfrey, for me personally anyway, is a lot of leadership qualities. He's shouting at players on the pitch. He's leading by example with his performance. I mean, I think it was, I don't know whether it was his debut or a couple of games after, he was screaming at James Rodriguez to move in a throw-in. Now, this is a lad who's been there and played in World Cups, won Golden Boots, and this young 22-year-old, same age as me, by the way, look at him, look at me, same age as me, is screaming at this player to say, you need to be there, you need to move. So, is that something you agree with, or do you think you can turn players into leaders, you just need better quality players?
No, I think the key thing is that the wording's wrong. You don't need leaders, you need winners.
Yeah.
That's what you need. I mean, I'd rather have 11 winners than 11 leaders, because ultimately, in my opinion, there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. For putting it like that, you know what I mean. So you need one.
Yeah.
You need one leader, and that's it. Like, leaders nowadays are few and far between, but a leader in my sense is organising the team, being on the pitch when we're under the cosh, not folding.
Yeah.
That's my type of leader. I want me leader running up to getting involved with the referee, always on his toes, always nagging him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the type of my leader is, and he's a winner.
Yeah.
That's what I want. You don't need 5 or 6. You look at other clubs, and you look at clubs who they never had one leader. When you look at it, do you understand what I'm saying? Every team that you look at, there's been world class players, then there's been very, very good player whose leadership and his desire to win has took him to that elite level. I mean, as much as you can say, I mean, I personally, when you look at what Jordan Henderson brings to Liverpool, is more than what ever Keita, Wijnaldum and all that bring, because you've heard it while the stadiums are being out. He's organising everything. You can hear him. You can hear him. On an Everton pitch, you can't hear anyone. The only person you hear on a Liverpool pitch, and hate it or not, when you bring it up, ultimately, he's a leader.
Spot on.
So that's what Everton should be striving for, to go get.
Yeah.
That's just it. And I mean, the whole Sami Khedira thing, I mean, you're talking about, he's a leader. Well, we got told Fabian Delph was a leader.
True. Very true. Very true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That lad can't even get on the pitch, and even when he does, can't do it.
Very true.
The leader to me is showing by example, performing 8 out of 10 every week.
Yeah.
I don't need a mouthpiece in the middle who can't perform and does a 3 out of 10 every week. I don't need that.
Yeah, very true.
So ultimately, I want a team of winners more than leaders.
Spot on. To be fair to Robert, he didn't mention leader. That was my word. He said players that change the mentality.
I'll blame you then.
Yeah, it's my fault. I put the words in his mouth. He said players that change the mentality, which is ultimately what you're saying. Change the mentality by dragging players, picking players up, going again.
When you look, I don't say it's mentality. I just didn't think we were good enough. I mean, you looked at you go look at the team games, like we went down to West Brom, we come back and won that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we have shown qualities and desire.
Even the Sheffield United win.
Well, that's it. Look at that. Like, we were 0-0, but then we got on top of them, and we ultimately dragged out. So I wouldn't say it was a leader thing. It was just that we need better players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Better players will bring that, won't they? Where they drag players up.
But when you see the likes of Man United and their squads, and even so, like, sort of Aston Villa, you look at Aston Villa, their wingers and their attacking threat does not change when players get injured.
Yeah.
Iwobi gets injured, Richarlison gets injured. Who is going to be our left and right midfielder?
Yeah. Spot on.
Who would it be? Who would you say it was who come in for them?
Well,
Gordon and Bernard.
It would be Bernard, and I'd love to say Gordon.
But would you have any trust in Gordon? Because at the end of the day, he's a very good prospect. But I agree in the sense of why he hasn't been playing.
Yeah. No, I agree, and equally, I've got no trust in Bernard.
Well, he's just nothing to me. You know what I mean? Like, what? So then you start shifting players down, don't you? You start seeing what. There. Well, you start seeing what we've done against Newcastle.
Yeah.
Where there was no width and no directness.
Yeah, and the formation.
So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be one of them seasons, mate, where you just take it on the chin, and wherever we land. But ultimately, you've got probably one of the best world coaches at the club, who will drag you from maybe 10th to 7th. Yeah. Listen, if Everton get European football, that's one of the biggest things I've ever seen in years from any manager.
Yeah. Spot on.
Especially with that squad.
Spot on. I agree, mate. I couldn't agree more. When he says he is a leader, Delph, he led you straight into the injury ward. And Philip says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Delph. What's the problem now?" There you go. There's also a little comment on it. Philip says, it's like Balassi missing his little skirt and bra. See, he had a
no comment.
Dig at the club on it. That's a quality comment. That props to, if you know the origin behind that comment, then fair play. Joshua says we missed
things like that. Just dead quick on that one. Like, he got found out, didn't he?
Yeah.
I called it early, and I just seen what he was trying to do, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't, because ultimately what he's doing what Ozil was doing to Arsenal, but he has no right to do that to the club.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? And I've seen it, and people are like, "Oh, look." No, I haven't got time for that.
He done an interview, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago, just ripping into the fact that he's not in the squad and stuff. Apparently, I don't know.
Why?
It's just mad, isn't it?
Interview. I'd love to just go. Why should you be in the squad?
Yeah, exactly.
What that answer?
Exactly.
Oh, couldn't even get a game for Neil Warnock. You know what I mean?
It's mad, isn't it?
Oh,
it's a mad world. Joshua says we miss Dean and the creativity he brings. We also miss Alan. Jedi says big game for us against Wolves away. We were embarrassed 3-0 last season. He also says Kenny, Tosun, Bernard, Delph. Still lots of deadwood at the club, but we are slowly moving fresh energy into the club. Ben Godfrey is my signing of the season. William says here is Gabamov. Lavavid says one on the subject of leaders. I think we need a Gary Mack in the midfield, and Philip says no swearing live. There you go. Near Death says we'll beat Rotherham. I hope so. William says I'd still play Gordon. Let him learn. Bernard's going nowhere. He weren't great against Sheffield United, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He also says Phil started that Balassi stuff. Lavin says I still say Bernard is too light. Yeah, blame Phil. It's Phil's fault.
I thought there was a little fishing hook that took my mouth there, and I was through the door there.
Lavin says I still say Bernard is too lightweight for the Prem. It's a shame because he has an abundance of skill. Philip says it was Tom. Joshua says, what do you think of Diego Costa, the proven goal scorer? Well, we will talk about transfers in a sec. I want to talk about Richie, though, just quickly. A couple of minutes on Richie. It's been a lot made about him. Richarlison. I know some people don't like him being called Richie. Convenience. Richarlison, obviously another quite poor performance the other day. He has struggled in recent weeks. Do you just put it down to what you said earlier on, mate? Is that, he's coming back from a concussion, before that he was coming back from a wrist injury, before that he's getting kicked week in, week out? I personally think Richarlison's demeanour on the pitch, which some people might construe as he doesn't want to be here, I think he is a very emotional footballer, and he beats himself up when he isn't scoring goals, when he isn't taking chances. I don't think it's as much of I don't want to be at Everton. I think it's more of I'm not really happy with myself here. And okay, you could say, well, he needs to pick himself up. It's not just about him, but players that play on emotion, usually it means more to them when they score. I'd rather that than somebody like a Delph who just doesn't give a shit either way. And yeah, he might have a little smile on his face, but he's not really fighting, he's not really doing anything. One thing you can't say about Richie, even in the games where he hasn't looked great going forward, he's still fighting, he's still he's still digging deep, he's still defending, he's still getting involved, he's still getting kicked and, concussed and this, that, the other, left, right and centre. Do you think it's just that it's him as a person and the emotion that he shows as a person? Or do you think maybe, there's something there with him maybe not wanting to be at the club going forward?
No, not at all. Not at all. You can see he wants to be at the club. See it every time he posts things and all that, even before. People are just making it apparent because he had a bad game in the last few games, but it's ultimately because Luca Dean's not there. It just you can just see, like, Godfrey just will not, like, he's done brilliant, but he just will not go past him. He's not good enough for that role to attack in an attacking
because he's a
sense.
centre half, isn't he? And you can't really blame him for that.
But Godfrey's looked brilliant in a low block in a back four where the fullbacks are being told not to go any further.
Yeah.
So he's done his job, he's done his defensive duties. But when you're going to go break teams down, it's very hard for a player who's not ultimately left-footed, who hasn't played left-back, who is not a left-back, to try and go create ultimately what our best creator at the club has done.
Yeah.
So that's what you're dealing with. And with Richarlison, listen, you see reports that he's been seen in the hospital and everything, and he's been getting checkups and things like that. So he is struggling with things. You could see it with his wrist. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what game it was, but the next game he played with his wrist, he had his pretty much, any time he touched it, he had his wrist here. So, and I think that was someone stood on his foot, someone stood on his hand.
Yeah, he got it wrapped up on the day, and then the next game he had the thing on, I think.
But you could see he was struggling with something, and even before that he stood. So, listen, I wouldn't put it down to like he doesn't want to be at the club.
Yeah.
I mean he wouldn't be playing, and you'd hear a lot more rumours and rumblings from people in the background at Everton.
Yeah.
If that was the case, but it told me, like, listen, he's going through a little rough time, but before that, he was playing well. He just weren't scoring.
Yeah.
We're just used to him scoring, aren't we?
That's it. We're used to him being that focal point, and then when he has a couple of bad games, it's like the end of the world, isn't it? And ultimately,
exactly. So, listen, but this is where we were talking about before, where we were saying squads come into it. Then,
yeah,
Everton are just not in the position to give him a rest. Same with Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get burnt out. They're gonna get hurt. I mean, let's be totally honest here about refereeing and that in the Prem. Richarlison's apparently got this thing that he dives and all that. He gets flattened every week and not gets protected.
Yeah.
So at one point, did the club come out and start backing him up? I'm just saying, referees need to start protecting him more.
Yeah.
Because what does he just get knocked out every week?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Chris Sutton probably say he dived for that.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's just, it's going to come to a point where he's going to get seriously injured. Like last week, that could have been serious.
Yeah.
That genuine, the way he got pushed into the back and the way Bailey was flying in, that's dangerous.
Yeah. That is, it is. He's quite lucky to have come away with it. Fine, to be fair.
What's happened with Jimenez?
Yeah.
At Wolves. It's dangerous. I mean, to just brush it off. I mean, you had this Ceballos stamp on Mina.
Yeah.
That's just gone. Bruno Fernandes nearly killed the guy.
Yeah. Cavani around Mina's neck.
Cavani with the throat. I mean, at what point do like retrospective bans come out here?
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
That's it. And they're getting away with it, and people will continue to get away with it while he can, and ultimately, you know, I agree on the Richie thing. I just think he's a player that plays on emotion. He's in a bad run of form at the moment. We can't afford to rest him because there's nobody that comes in that's as good as him. Even in an off form, Richarlison has got more ability to change a game than the other players that we've got in the squad. And you know, we're just going to have to put up with that for now.
Just if you can bring a replacement in, not a replacement as such. If you take Bernard, Tosun and all that, and you can put a lad in who's going to ultimately do a better job than them two, who can play on the right wing or can play in other different positions, then that's where you're going to see him more getting rotated.
Yeah.
That's what a squad's for. You're going to see more rotation. But when Ancelotti can't trust these players, and when they're showing that they can't be trusted, then it's just, he's going to have to play.
Yeah. No, spot on.
But ultimately, fans have got to realise then you will get these moments in the season where he can't come out and keep putting in 9, 10, 8, 7 or out of 10 performances in. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, spot on, I agree. Just quickly then to round up the video, I can't even speak. Improvements, positions in which we need to improve on then going forward. January, maybe a write-off, but certainly in the summer, I'd probably say right back because I just don't think Seamus has got the legs to get up and down enough or as much as he needs to. Right winger maybe, we've already spoken about up front. What do you think, mate? What do you think going forward and where we need to improve to be that bit more consistent?
Well, my number one would be a goalkeeper.
Okay.
Straight away. You've seen the top teams. Man City done it. Liverpool have done it. And now you're seeing it with the likes of Arsenal and you're seeing it with Chelsea, where how much of an effect the goalkeeper has on a team.
Yeah.
They bought Kepa for 70 million. Hasn't worked out. Liverpool was struggling in the sense of how we were with their goalkeeper, and he was costing them games, and they went out and paid 70 odd million, I think, for Alisson. And look what that's done. So that first one, me, is a major priority because I've just... Listen, he's a good goalkeeper, but I've lost complete faith out of now Pickford.
Yeah.
I still don't think he's very confident or comfortable in this side, so that's my main one. Second one is I'll probably bring in 2 right backs.
Okay.
I think it's time to give Seamus Coleman. He's done a brilliant service to the club, but ultimately now it's starting to show, isn't it? I mean, he can put in 1 or 2, maybe 3 performances at the top level at best, but he's not the Seamus Coleman of old. And the best thing for the best attribute Coleman had, it was his technical ability. It was the fact he was a progressive runner and he was up and down.
Ferocious.
And his work rate was insane. Listen, you could always say his final ball was a little bit off form, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He weren't great, but he brought work rate and he was up and down. So that's gone. So once that goes, it's very hard to keep a player in like that. So, and plus, well, he's 33 now.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could bring in a lad and then Coleman's the backup. But I'd rather get someone who's going to start from day one and bring in an academy player, because when you look at the under-23s at Everton, they're struggling a bit, and there's nothing really at right back who sort of stands out. I mean, you got Therese Smalls at left back who's doing very well, and you know, you got Nkunku at left back, but there's no real right back at Everton coming through the academy where you think, you know, let's buy someone and then bring him as well. So that's the next one. I mean, Max Aarons, it'd be the one. It is sort of sticks out like a sore thumb, really. I know a lot of people now are looking at it thinking that he hasn't done necessarily what he's done last season in the Premier. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, you look at what Godfrey's done. There's no suggestion why Max Aarons can't do the same. I mean, some fragilities defend them, but as you progress and as you get older, I think the defensive work comes with it.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I've got about 20 years, so bear with me. I'm joking. I've got a creative attacker midfielder who can carry the ball at pace.
Runs with it.
We haven't had one since Ross Barkley.
Yeah, very good point.
To me, everyone was laughing and joking that he went to Villa. I thought that was a brilliant signing for Villa. I thought that was perfect. I mean, me personally, if he weren't at Everton beforehand, I'd be all in for Ross Barkley.
Yeah.
His stats are brilliant. Ultimately, I mean, sometimes he can get frustrating, but this season when he's been at Villa, he's looking like the Barkley of old, where he's just allowed to run.
Yeah.
Not to try and do like little ticky-tacky passes and all things, because ultimately that's not what he is. He's a progressive and attacking forward. Yeah. Who's aggressive, and he's very, very good. Let's all be straight about it. He's a very, very good footballer. So that was sort of the mould I was after, because Sigurdsson's just draining the life out of me, really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He's draining the absolute life out of me. I mean, James Rodriguez is brilliant, but he's only good in certain times where we're going to be possession, heavily well possession, and ultimately he's brilliant at finding space. But then again, it goes to the third one, where you're looking at a winger.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Iwobi, you got Richarlison, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no real. You need a lad who's pace, power, good 1v1, crossing, and can create chances. I mean, that's the perfect winger who you want. Yeah. And you've got the likes of Captain Diatta at it in Belgium, who's looking a very, very good player in the mould of your Manes and things like that. I mean, if someone could ultimately get him, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Southampton went and got him, and he goes for 50 odd, 60 odd million. He's that good. I mean, the issues I had with him was his attacking ability in some parts, but he's really improved that this year, and he's gone up a level, and he's only 20. I think he's 21, 22. So that's another player. And then I think this goes under the radar. A defensive playmaker.
Yeah.
In midfield. I don't think we've got no one who can do that. You've got Decore, who's a box-to-box midfielder, and you've got Allen, who's basically a water carrier for the defence, and ultimately was doing what basically Garner was doing, but just a better passer. So we haven't really got that player who you could sort of take out Allen against, like, say, your West Hams, and go put him in to go break the lines and go break these structured defensive teams down. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. They're out there, and look, you think Tom Davies could come up to that, but he's the most frustrating player you could ever watch, because he's brilliant for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then he's awful.
And then he'd do a 5-yard pass, and it hit the upper bullens, and then after that he just turns into not a footballer. Yeah. I've never seen. It's just so frustrating. So if Tom wants to get to that level and wants to, then he's got to improve. But Everton can't wait round for that.
No.
See where we're saying like where Godfrey needs chances or Gordon needs chances. He's never going to get it because we don't have time for it ultimately at this moment in time. Ancelotti's not waiting around for a year, 2 years for Gordon to become good. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. No. If you're not doing it now, you're out, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's a winger, and then obviously a striker. But I want a striker who could sort of complement Calvert-Lewin. Yeah. You've got Calvert-Lewin who can hold the ball up, who's brilliant at running channel, but you haven't got the player who can sort of get you a goal. I mean, Calvert-Lewin's improved his like movement in the box, but he still hasn't got that sort of instinct where you think you should be there, Dom. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's getting better at it. He's getting better, and he's a lot improved. And ultimately, he like we've said, I mentioned, he can't create, can he? Yeah. I mean, we've seen some circumstances against Arsenal. Well, that's it. He can't turn and run at defences. Yeah. He can't create his own chances. He's not like that Harry Kane, where you want him to, and ultimately he probably will get to that point. I have no doubt he will. I mean, I've seen a lot of performances this year. You're like, I did not know he had that in his locker.
Yeah, spot on.
Like the pass against I think it was against Arsenal to Richarlison, was it? The inside of the
yeah.
Was it against Arsenal?
From like the halfway line,
flicked it over. It was absolutely brilliant ball, and that's ultimately what you want. You want more of that, and he's going to get to that. But when Dom's absolutely flat as a pancake, you've got to have that not backup, but rotation playing. I mean, off the top of my head, you're looking at Tammy Abrahams, but Tammy would want to probably come and start. Yeah. You're looking at Milik from Napoli, maybe, but the one like I mentioned before, Bakambu, he's in China. China have just put in a thing in place for capped salaries for foreigners.
Okay.
So ultimately, the 300 grand he's probably getting tax free.
Yeah, he's not going to be getting that.
Be getting like a fiver with a pack of Haribo now. So he's ultimately going to be looking at it, and I know Barca were in for him. I know Atletico Madrid have shown interest in him with Diego Costa now leaving. So yeah, he'd be my one to come in for the 6 months.
Yes, man. There you go. So goalkeeper, couple of right backs, attacking midfield. Someone that runs with the ball, a winger, a backup striker, and a defensive playmaker. You know what, though? I agree. I think those are the positions in which we need to strengthen. Obviously, right back is a starter. Winger, you'd probably say is a starter as well. Progressive midfielder is, but then it's just having players in the background to be able to rotate, and ultimately you want at least one or two good players for every position, not one good player and then somebody that you just turn your stomach to when you've got to think about it. No, I agree, Tom. I agree completely, and I think some of the players you mentioned there are absolutely fantastic. We'll do a stream if you want within the next couple of weeks or so, just going through some of them in a little bit more detail and breaking them down a little bit. It is the transfer window, of course, so it'd be good to do that. We'll get into the comments then before we finish up. Semi says, hello, me. He also says, Adam late made it in. Greetings, fellow Blues, is right. Rim says, no, he left because no one liked him. Lavid said, I'd have Barkley back in a heartbeat. He only left because he fell out with Koeman. I don't think it'd be a popular one between fans, but he's a great player, to be fair, and someone we need.
It's not the sense of bringing Barkley back. It's that profile.
Yeah, the player of Barkley,
That profile that he brings. Like, Grealish is that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, Grealish is that type of player, powerful, runs with the ball, progresses, gets defenders on toes, gets them falling back, getting them out of position. We haven't, like, in the Premier League, power and speed is the most important.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you haven't got that in the Premier League, you will struggle. Yeah. You're done. That's ultimately what the Premier League is.
Oh, I agree. Jedi says, Grealish, Tammy Abraham, Max Adams can go on, but it's just Carlo with the transfers. It's Mali Assar, pace and power. John says, what's happening with Gabaman? Still recovering, apparently, maybe.
It's a terrible thing with that lad, and I feel sorry for him. I mean, I've seen fans all like get it. I know. Listen, he's a human being. At the end of the day,
his fault.
Imagine your dreams crushed in like 2 years of just hell, hasn't it, for him? So I feel sorry for the lads.
I do as well. Right, we'll finish it up there then. Big thanks to everybody for watching. Really do appreciate it. of course, as always, if you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. A massive thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments as per usual. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your comments in the comment section. Massive thanks to Tom for joining us. Tom, hopefully you get you back on within the next, well, few days, week, mate, whenever you want to come on. Big thanks for coming on. Anything to say before we finish it up?
No comments on Balassi. Let's leave him and his little pom-poms alone now.
There you go. Couldn't have summed it up as well as that Everton have, mate.
Do I just throw my career away and go hard into him?
Sort of one of them, innit?
It's angel and devil, you know what I mean?
Big thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back live on Wednesday with another video. We're going to talk some transfers. We're going to bring the Talking Rubbish transfer show back. It's been a while since we've done one of them, obviously, because it's not been a transfer window, but we've got a lot of rumours to chat about, and we're going to talk about them on Wednesday. Jedi says, cheers, lads. Semi says, come on, you Blues. Neil Satis and Izzy Optimum and up the toffees. Philip says, good to see you back, Tom. Great video, guys. Thank you very much. And Eugene says, see you about the toffees and see you on Wednesday. A massive thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Like I said, check out Tom. His links to Twitter and stuff in the description down below. Go and follow him. Big thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave the video a like, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.